Welcome back to the Kerbal Space Program. Today's flight, we are attempting to do a flyby of the moon. We've got a few experiments with us to build up some hopefully significant science. You'll see we have gone for significant overkill with this rocket. Since it is our first flight to the moon, we want to make sure we have plenty of fuel in case anything should go wrong. So, without further ado, we shall be on our way in 3, 2, 1. Jebediah, of course, still at the helm. Coming up on the end of our solid fuel rockets now. Jettisoning those, starting the main engines, passing 8 kilometers. At 12 kilometers, we will begin our pitch towards a 90-degree heading at about a 45-degree pitch. Starting that now. Jettisoning first set of liquid rockets. Now we're going to want to put ourselves into a somewhat low orbit here around the planet so that we can get a good look at the moon before beginning our burn to ascend to it. At about 120, we will cut our engines until we get closer to apoapsis. And we overshot it by a bit, but that's okay. This is just kind of a place-holding orbit, not terribly critical to any specs. Two minutes to go. It has been a while since we have been properly in space with zero atmosphere around us. All of those science flights around the planet. But it is time for us to return to the heavens from whence we came. Jebediah doing his little jig there for a moment. There he goes. Very excited to be progressing the efforts. You'll notice on the craft today, we have also fitted landing gear. We're going to hope that when we return to the planet, it will be over some land and we can test those out. Not a critical component, but always nice to try to protect our science payload. Our goal for this burn will be to set us up into an orbit. Once we have a periapsis that is around 30 kilometers, we are going to jettison our 2 outside boosters here, independent of how much fuel they have, in order to reduce the amount of space debris that we are creating up here. That is A big concern of mine in most of my missions is to try to keep the man-made junk to a minimum. So, since, again, fuel is free for the time being, we might as well take advantage of that. Started at about 30 seconds early. Again, not a huge deal given the nature of our mission here. Our onboard alarm there going off, letting me know that we are approaching the periapsis. Or approaching having a periapsis, I guess is the better way to phrase that. Oh, there we are. 30. And we're almost out of fuel anyhow, so that's quite alright. We're going to go ahead. We're going to get rid of those. We're going to squeak out of here so they don't hit us. Now, because we are heading at a 90-degree course, if we want to intersect the moon, the best way to do that is wait until right when the moon rises over the horizon of the planet, and then throttle up to our intercept course. Now, if we were heading at a 270-degree course, that is typically the way I like to go. It uses more fuel, but the approach for the moon, in my opinion, is a lot easier that way. And of course you would do it right as you see the moon set behind the planet, as opposed to watching it rise. Make sure we're facing prograde when that situation comes up. In the words of Smash Mouth, we are go for the moon. So we throttle up here. Looking at 2,000 kilometers. As this grows exponentially, we're going to reduce power so we don't overshoot. The moon orbits at around 12 million. There we are. So that would bring us within 1,500 kilometers. See if we can't get that number down a bit. That looks like that's going to be all we're going to get out of this one. Now we could set up a second maneuver along the way in order to bring us down closer to the celestial body. One way to do that would be to shift our arc to the left here. We're going to play with the prograde, retrograde, normal, anti-normal, all that to try to get this as close as we can without burning much more than 130. I think that's about all of the meters per second I want to change. Again, I'm not trying to get into any form of orbit. If I were, I would leave it semi-close, and then as we transfer to its sphere of influence, we would burn retrograde to slow us down as we came around the backside of the moon and drop us down into an elliptical orbit. Got to keep careful track of the arc we're creating for our return journey. One, because that is going to significantly increase the time of our mission, and also even though we do have a very hefty amount of fuel on board, we don't want to risk running out in a crazy orbit around the planet. And we also want to avoid getting launched out of our sphere of influence. Which is actually what we're on course to do right now, is get launched away from Kerbin. But we can of course counteract this by burning retrograde. I have quite a fair amount of fuel here. Still have half of that tank, and I have both of these tanks. And of course these are just estimates. I have set up arcs where I was supposed to pass by within 100 kilometers, and not even the maneuver node, just what my current course was showing was within 120, and by the time I got there I was actually on a collision course, which is not exactly where you want to be, having to react to that with just a couple of hours. But I'm going to say that this is a pretty good flyby, 129 kilometers. But I'm greedy, so we're going to try to bring that 33 is much too close. 115. 80. 80's good. So we shall get ready for that burn, which will be in 4 minutes. Oh, I was off a bit in my assumption as to where the normal line would be. Not normal, sorry. Normal is up and down. All right. So in 3 minutes we will execute that burn. Overshot it a tad bit, so let's delete this so we can see what's going on. As you can see with our current course, we are projected to hit the moon, which is bad. So we'll just back ourselves up a little bit here. It's probably a 15-second burn. No, way less than that. It's probably about a 6-second burn. And we'll fire the engines. Six seconds. Delete this so we can see what we have going on. And our estimated periapsis is 78 kilometers, which is pretty nice. Now when we get there, we will need to make sure that we slow down, or a day later we will be ejected from Kerbin and become one with our solar system here, and we're not quite ready to do that. So we have 2 hours and 40 minutes to speed through the miracles of Kerbal hibernation. Or maybe it's just zoning out, it's hard to tell. Alright. So there we can see the moon, pretty big in our window, roughly the same size as Kerbin now. So this will be a few burn maneuvers so that we don't fly 4 days out there. But this will keep us within our orbital neighborhood. We did fit this craft with our first antenna. And you'll notice we also have 2 batteries so that I may make a couple of observations here. about being high over the moon. And let's make a crew report from high over the moon. Might as well get as much out of this as we can. And again, we will go ahead and send that data. Now that's going to use up a fair amount of our electric charge, but our alternator should kick in when we fire for this retrograde burn as we get closer. We're also going to want to do a mystery goo while we are high above over the moon. And we'll do one when we get closer. Oh, doing the EVA, of course, cancels our maneuver. Whoa, that was a little far. Retrograde. I think it was about 130 we wanted. No, more than that. A lot more than that. I was way off. 230. Okay. So we're going to proactively set our spaceship up in that direction. Because we plan on doing another EVA when we are close to the moon. Up. Which will of course cancel this data, and because we want to do it close to the periapsis, we won't have a whole lot of time to re-engage to set up the maneuver. So if our craft is pointed the right way, we can eyeball the 230 meters per second if we have to. So let's bring us a little bit closer here. The closest any Kerbal has been to its natural satellite. Falling very fast now, still 15 minutes from our closest point. I could have just checked the node. Old habits, die hard, all that jazz. At about 2 minutes, we will start our experiments. Which hopefully bring us below 80. It would be nice if we could get a close to the moon rating instead of a far away. As we cross over to the dark side, we're at 1.5 minutes. We'll observe our mystery goo on the other side. Still considers us high over the moon. Oh, we're ascending already. So high over the moon is sadly going to be where we finish off here. Get our material bay. Keep that. Get a second crew report, which is worthless. Let's get our EVA, which is likely going to be worthless. It is. So I thought I'd get us a little bit closer than that, but still plenty of good science here. Fire up those engines. too much. All right. We're going to try something here. We're going to try to get those low over the moon readings when our apoapsis we're going to decelerate. Which will bring us 26 over. And that will bring us again, 30 is what I like to look for. That'll bring us home. So we'll take one very high trip over the moon. I could cut this down, of course, by continuing to burn retrograde, bring this in closer, but with the two other burns set up to look very nice, 7 meters here and not too much there, and a ton of fuel, we're going to make Jebediah sweat it out, and we're going to go ahead and put this plan into action here. Let's get our rocket facing the right way, and we might as well give you guys something to look at. I mean, if you're going to be around the moon, you might as well look at the big black space that could indeed be the moon. My very first attempt landing on the moon was actually from the dark side, which I do not recommend, but it was definitely thrilling, and the fact that the Kerbal that I sent there survived is a testament to the tenacity of these little spacefaring creatures. We have 4 hours to kill, so we're going to fast forward pretty quickly here. A nice shot to remind us where we came from. And I believe I can hear somebody outside the mission control room that I need to go check on. I will be right back. Enjoy the wonderful, wonderful music that comes from your good friend transmitting high up in space. And we're back. Jebediah still enjoying himself. The wonders of it all, 9 hours in, officially the longest mission we have done. Make sure all of that still looks good. Make sure our periapsis 22. And another 5 hours to go by, lickety-split. That one reads 30. This one reads 30. We're going to reset that experiment. And we're going to reset that experiment and hope that we can get a better one here. All right. Five hours. Minutes. Six minutes. 4 minutes. 2 minutes. Minute. "37 seconds. Jebediah taking in the view. It's beautiful out here. We overshot it by a little. Still at 36 projected. So, since this should be low over the moon by now, near the moon, that's going to pump that data up significantly. Near the moon, still 75, but high over the moon will be easier to check off. Near the moon, let's do our EVA. The moon Midlands. Might be able to get a different observation up here as we approach these craters. hard to obtain. Very nice looking crater there. I think Midlands might be the only thing I'm able to obtain up here. The fact that he's able to record anything below him now is kind of amazing. Midland craters, great. We're going to call that everything he's going to be able to get there. And this should be simply for wanting our rocket pointed in the right direction for when we get here. We'll do that. Kind of wiles out and goes crazy. But it should be roughly there. And now we head home. Leaving the moon behind. Heading back towards Kerbin. Granted, we have now decided that we are going to be intersecting Kerbin. As we get ready to transfer our sphere of influence here. We're going to attempt just a small prograde burn as we fall the 11 million meters. So that we do not just get too scorched on our way in. Again, we're just going to check. It should just flip us around. Indeed. And now we have nothing to do but wait. falling pretty quickly here. Very quickly. And since we do have so much extra fuel, which really is just a liability on re-entry, we're going to go ahead and attempt to burn off some of this speed. Granted, I completely forgot about our whole wanting to land on the ground. But, you know, that's how that goes. Sometimes you land in a giant ocean. Kilometers up, we're starting to hit the atmosphere. Burned off about a third of our speed before hitting the atmosphere, which ought to make Jebediah very happy. Go ahead and jettison that. And we are definitely heading for a splashdown. Into the thick of the atmosphere now. Jebediah, quietly reserved. As we cook off all that space contamination. It was a nice entry in. Didn't have to lose too much speed. Burned up for a very small amount of time. At 5 kilometers, we'll deploy the beginning of our chutes. Parachutes are open. Somewhere in the distance, our main service engine has exploded upon impact with the water. And we will glide slowly down. Jebediah, always amazed by Parachute's abilities to prevent him from exploding in a terrible fireball. That was pretty tragic right there. Pretty tragic indeed. The Science Junior was destroyed. So we will lose that 75 science, a pretty terrible, terrible blow. So we got the crew report near the moon, crew report above the Midlands, above the Midland craters, recovery of a vessel from around the moon, giving us 79 science. we're going to attempt to recover those 2 goo canisters. Those 2 boosters haven't slowed down enough to crash yet, but let's go ahead and what the heck? I don't know what that was. That was very strange to me. There we go. One of our mystery goos. 30 science. Our other mystery goo, another 30 science. So I am upset over the loss of the Science Junior. That was 75 science. That would have been very helpful. Would have unlocked a tech tree. But that is the price for not making sure I was going to land over land when I specifically put landing gear on. So, live and learn. Let's just see what we have the ability to unlock. 194 science, which is pretty good. We have larger fuel tanks. We have better landing gear, ladders and thermometers, along with the mobile processing lab, which will of course allow even more science. So we will go with that one for 90 of our science. $160 to get the next step. Better batteries. We'll go ahead and just finish off rocketry, since that's the cheapest. And we have 59. We need 90 for the next step. We know that if we launch another mission using the same rocket and try to pack two of the science labs on there instead of all of that extra fuel we had, we would be able to easily cover 150 science, assuming we land without crashing down. So that will be most likely our plan. We'll also grab some thermometer readings, and we'll get to test out the mobile processing lab, an item I have not used yet. So, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.